All right, guys, I want you to stop failing at food plots. I get questions year round for I planted this, I tried this technique, and my food plots just suck. Why? And I'm going to break it down for you in terms hopefully you can understand, because there's so many different ways out there now. You know, food plots have been around for whatever. People have been promoting them for 20 years, give or take a few years, something like that. But there's many different ways to do it. But from my experience, from being on people's properties and seeing what's working for them, what's not working, testing stuff myself, doing food plots, actually doing food plots, I'm going to tell you what works and what doesn't work and why people have these failures. And people have failures most times because they listen to so many people online and they try all these gimmicks, they try all these methods, and they try all these different chemicals, and they have a failure. They have a burn. They have seeds that don't germinate. They have weak tonnage, low value, quality food. And it irritates me because, yeah, there's many people that promote food plots. There's many people that make YouTube videos. There's many people that are food plots gurus. And most of the times when you're listening to that advice, they have a certain agenda, and that is to get you to buy a certain product that because they're making money off of a certain piece of equipment, a certain this, a certain that. And it's not rocket science. Food plots is not rocket science. I don't care if you don't need to buy equipment to do food plots, heavy equipment. We did food plots for many years with a 250 ATV and a Groundhog Max. We did 2 acres of food plots that way. I've had different ATV implements and they all work. They all work, they all will get the job done. And each year we upgrade to where we are now. Now we're using the Ferminator. Do you need to buy a Ferminator? 100% you don't have to. We use it because it's all built into one. You got the disc, you got the cultipacker, you got the seeder. It does everything at once. Because do we need one? No, we don't need one. But we continue to use ATVs to plant food plots, so we buy ATV equipment. Ferminator is bad to the bone. Can't beat it. Am I telling you to buy one? No, I don't really care if you buy one. But you get these guys on social media that'll say tilling the soil is horrible. It's horrible for the soil. You have to use chemicals. You can't plant food plots without chemicals. You have to buy a tractor. You have to buy whatever it is. I'm stumbled on words because I'm so irritated with this, because I just had questions come in and it just blows my mind. When you are creating a food plot, okay, it starts with a soil sample. You have to have a soil sample to know where you are with the soil. You need to know your CEC, you need to know your organic matter percentage, you need to know what your pH is of the soil, and you need to know your fertility levels. When you have this, it'll give you a general recommendation on fertility levels, application, fertilizer, lime application, and then you can see where your organic matter is and your CEC, and you build on that each year. It all goes back to Mother Nature and what farmers did way before our time is building the soil. Disking green manure, green material back into the soil, building up that organic matter percentage, building up the CEC, and always planting something in the soil till you don't have bare soil. Back here, we have 3 acres of winter wheat that we planted in the fall. It's not bare soil. The winter wheat is holding that soil together, and it's building the soil, nutrients in the soil, and it's also feeding deer. Come springtime, okay? Probably the end of May in the Northeast here. We're going to take what's here, green material that's green and living and full of moisture. We're going to take this and we're going to disc it back into the soil. We're not going to kill it with chemicals. We're going to disc this back in. When you disc green material back into the soil, you're not drying it out as if I was to come in here and spray this plot with chemicals and dry out that winter wheat and then turn it back into the soil. It'd be dead. It'd be dead material that's going in there with chemicals, and you're drying it out that way. When you leave this alone and you just turn it back into the soil, it keeps that moisture content in that plant, in that soil, and then when you seed, it gives you many more days, weeks with that soil moisture to allow the new seeds to germinate, okay? It's not rocket science. You disc the soil and you plant. You have all these different companies out there now that promote cultipackers. Do you have to cultipack the soil? Do you have to do this? Do you have to do this? No, you don't have to cultipack the soil. Think of Mother Nature. When a bird, there's a bird right there, flying over, okay, poops out a seed. That seed lands in the ground, it germinates. We didn't do nothing to it. The seed landed on top of the soil, and freeze thaw, rain, whatever, the seed germinated, and that's how you get stuff to grow. Cultipackers, people fail with this miserably because they put seeds too deep. Cultipackers are great, but they're also horrible. When you're planting something, when you freshly disc the ground and you have big giant clumps of soil, and I see a lot of people using the cultipackers, they seed right after they disc and then they cultipack. That's the worst thing you could possibly do, because you have all these clumps of soil and then you seed, especially with small seeds, and then you cultipack over that. You're smashing that dirt over the seed, and it's too deep. It's never going to germinate. And then all of a sudden the questions come up, hey, I did this and I did this and I did this and my food plot didn't grow. Why? Well, it's because you didn't cultipack that first. Smooth it out, whether it's a cultipacker or some kind of chain link drag, to kind of smooth it out first, then seed, and then drag it again or cultipack it. That's why. If you do it that way, you have good germination. You have to think of this stuff with common sense. You have to not buy into all this crimpers and this no-till stuff with food plots. It's like, it's crazy, because does no-till work? Yeah, it works, but it's a food plot. Like, we're planting stuff for deer. We're not planting stuff cash crop, and we can argue no-till or till all day long. I'm always going to till the soil. I'm always going to disc that green material back into the soil. You don't need $1,000 crimpers. You don't need to spend hundreds of dollars of chemicals to plant something just to kill it. When I see people taking something that's beautiful, such as a winter wheat field or a buckwheat field, and they're killing it with chemicals, it blows my mind, because it's the silliest thing. You're taking something green that's full of moisture and full of living organisms and micronutrients, and you're taking it and you're spraying it with chemicals and drying it out, and then planting and crimping and no-till this, running a cultipacker over it. It's funny. Does it work? Yeah, people do it. I'm not saying it doesn't work. Majority of times that I've seen people do this method, they have weak germination and a low tonnage value food plot. Not everybody, some people. But if you go back to the basics of farming, the basics of soil is you leave a cover crop in, you disc that in to the soil, and you plant. And you drag it, and it rains and it grows. You don't need chemicals majority of time. I'm not against chemicals. Sometimes chemicals are needed, especially when you're establishing a new food plot. If you follow the methods of leaving something green in the food plot, such as winter wheat, throughout the year, you prevent weed growth and always keep something in there, you eliminate the need of chemicals. And I get questions about this all the time, where people will go out and they buy all this liquid lime, and they buy all this different types of fertilizer that's like straight nitrogen liquid, and they spray their plots and then they burn them to the ground. And there's a lot of gimmicks out there, guys, but you have to go back to the basics of soil, of seeds, and just farming. It's a deer. We're not cash cropping. We're not, I mean, we're doing this stuff to deer hunt over, right? So just follow the basics. You don't have to. I had a guy, when was this? I had a guy message me 2 days ago, email. He says, it said, Dave, I'm going to plant a food plot this spring. I bought liquid lime. I bought some sort of fertilizer that you spray on the soil. He bought some kind of fertilizer that he sprays on the food plot once it grows. Plus he bought bag fertilizer. Plus he bought a crimper. Plus he bought a cultipacker. And plus it said he bought, I think he might have said he bought a tractor. And he's like, what do I do? I'm like, holy smokes. Like, you just literally spent thousands of dollars for stuff that you do not need. It's basic, guys. Disc soil, plant, disc soil, plant, disc soil, plant. Follow soil samples. Follow the advice of whoever you want. But you have to look at people's food plots, who has success with their food plots, the green tonnage, the value of that food plot that it provides to the deer. When you see people on social media that are posting food plots that have bare soil, they didn't do a good job, because you have bare soil. Now, if you're talking about little tiny food plots, you know, 1/4 acre, 1/16 of an acre that you just hunt on and you don't really care, well, I mean, it's up to you. But it's always best to leave something in there, green and growing. Winter wheat is our choice. You can see back behind me, deer have been in here like crazy. Turkeys have been in here. It's warm temperatures. This stuff's coming out of dormancy, and we're providing the deer with many more months, weeks of food before spring green up. You don't need chemicals most of the times. You don't need expensive cultipackers. You don't need expensive this. You don't need expensive that. It's simple, okay? Don't get confused with it. Don't buy into all these weird methods, and you'll have better success. I'm telling you, I promise you. I will promise you. I'm not selling you anything, okay? I don't care if you buy anything, but I'm just telling you to keep it simple, okay? You spread the seed, it rains, the seed grows. You follow soil samples, you correct it with pH, you correct it with fertility, and you'll have a great food plot this spring, summer, and leading into fall.